Welcome to part 2 of Human Factors in the Built Environment. We are on chapter 4. Several initiatives. We want you to learn about the ADA because, of course, it's a guideline that affects a lot of parts of our designs, not just about accessibility for wheelchairs, which leads us to universal design and inclusive design, which goes beyond just the ADA. As mentioned before, the ADA is not so much a code as a guideline that was put into effect by the Department of Justice in 2008, and many local jurisdictions will actually adopt these. Some of the simple things that designers need to learn about are carpet pile height and changes in level at doors, which can not be any more than ½ of an inch, and a change in level not more than ¼ inch. And this is for everyone because it helps us avoid slips and falls. The clear ground or floor space for the wheelchair takes up 30 inches by 48 inches. Our knee and toe clearances are important too because they affect our forward reach. We can see at the bottom when we have a countertop that is from 17 to 25 inches deep, that we can get, of course, closer to there, so our toe space is a little less required, only 6 inches there. And then when we have a deeper countertop, other factors come into play. And simply put, a designer will refer to the ADA constantly, not expected to memorize any of this, but have a general awareness of the reach ranges and the limitations, and actually look things up to make sure that they're following exactly to the letter of the guideline. For someone who's lost their sight and are using a cane particularly, their most important zone is from 0 to 27 inches. This is the area with which the cane would be able to hit and find an object that it was protruding. And this is why anything that's above 27 inches needs to only protrude out for 4 inches. And this does affect interior designers. It affects handrails, it affects lighting, it affects wall sconces, and any number of things. So this is important to be sensitive to. And also overhead clearances. We need to have an overhead clearance of 80 inches. So anything from 27 to 80 inches is required to be under 4 inches deep. Here's our reach ranges, and we can see when we're in have no obstructions in front of us, we can obviously reach from further up on the wall to 48 inches. But if we have a protrusion in front of us, we have some limitations, such as we can see on the bottom right. The side reach is also important for designers to understand because this affects areas such as checkout desk or reception counters. And we're allowed to use the 36-inch countertop if the countertop is not over 10 inches deep. If it is, then we are guided to go down to 34 inches maximum, which is 2 foot 10 inches, which is 2 inches shorter than a standard kitchen counter. Here we can see a diagram of the clear width, and if we're going to have any obstructions that come into the 36-inch space, or our clear width required, we can only go down to 32 inches. And for a wheelchair, when we have a 90-degree opening door, this is measured from the part where the JM protrudes into the space. So sometimes it is not the door size. This is actually a 34-inch door will lead to a 32-inch throat, we call it there, which is the clear opening width. Here's some other clearances at manual swinging doors, and I've highlighted a few of them. In the red are some clearances I want you to memorize, such as that a corridor, as you approach a door, coming along a corridor, your hallway should never be less than 42 inches. The other thing is, when we're turning into that door, we're going to need to have a 12-inch space on the side of the door to be able to open the handle and push into the door. If we're pulling the door toward us, we need the 18 inches as we saw in the last slide. I've shown a couple of situations in blue when there should probably never have doors swinging into any kind of open space such as we see in these two illustrations. If we were to, you can see that increases the clearance space tremendously for someone in a wheelchair. Now, on the lower left, I have a door that swings out that's in a niche or a recessed area. If we have two doors in a series, Someone in a wheelchair needs 48 inches of space between those two doors to let the door close behind them and then approach the next door. At elevators, we are sometimes responsible for signage. A lot of this kind of signage that you're seeing is going to be taken care of by the elevator manufacturers. But if someone is asking you your opinion, does this elevator meet ADA, you can use these diagrams to help them figure that out. Now, stair safety is very important for everyone. So on the top of the stair lines is that we shall not have more than a half-inch max radius. This is because if it's more than a half-inch radius, it can lead to someone's foot slipping on the edge of that stair. If we're going to have a protruding stair nosing, then we need to keep that less than 1.5 inches, and that is because our toe will get stuck under that 1.5 or greater space. Our handrails can go between 34 and 38 inches instead of 36 inches, but handrail design is very important. It's actually been found that the oblong or the oval shape is better than a perfectly round handrail as far as safety is concerned. Here we also see grab bars. We have one to the side of us, which is 42 inches, and it's always 12 inches from the back wall. And there's one on the back wall that is 36 inches wide, and it needs to be located relative to the center line of the toilet and not so much a distance from the wall. And our toilet is regulated as far as its location, which is 18 inches. We can see that on the top right. So you can see where the toilet tissue dispenser and its size is very important to work out because the grab bar occupies kind of a key space for us. The urinal for an ADA compliant urinal, not every urinal would be this, should be 17 inches off the ground. When we're looking at toilet compartments, we actually have to know what kind of toilet is being used because if it's a floor-mounted toilet, we actually need more space than a wall-hung toilet. So if you just stick with the 60 by 60, you are going to be covered in all situations. The wall-mounted toilet with the 56-inch clearance is possible because a person in a wheelchair can utilize the space under the toilet for their turning radius, whereas a floor-mounted toilet is such as we see at the bottom right from Kohler has a 59-inch clearance because we certainly can't use the space under the toilet as part of our turning radius. I suggest grab bars. I think getting out of the bathtub's one of the most difficult and dangerous regarding safety times. Now, when we look at showers, the smallest that you could ever do is 36 by 36. But with that in mind, you cannot align the rear wall with that. You need an area for the wheelchair to back up into so that the person can transfer into the shower. Now, a 60 by 30 inch shower that we see off to the right is a great use of space if someone has a traditional bathtub, which also takes up 60 by 30, and they need to make their home adapted to their new situation and convert the whole bathtub to a shower. Here's our shower controls. Again, I want you to just look that up and be sure about it. Signs in Braille. You need to know that our signs are going to be placed from 48 or 4 feet up to 5 feet. And that is the area where the sign needs to go for someone who needs to find the Braille. It needs to be located in a consistent area. All permanent spaces require a sign with Braille and possibly the room number. Now, when we look at wheelchair spaces in an auditorium, we have to be cognizant of different situations when people are sitting and standing, and that they have a variety of places to choose from. So in this auditorium that I worked on or designed when I was in Little Rock, seats left open down in the front for 2 people in a wheelchair to be able to sit there. And also at the very top, someone can come in and sit on the platform or be on the platform in their wheelchair and have a very good view down into the auditorium. And when we look at kitchens, not only we're looking at some clearances here for ADA, but there's also a lot of innovations regarding adaptable countertops and heights of appliances and such like that. Here's the long form of 7 principles of universal design, but I've kind of shortened them up. And universal design embraces the idea that everybody should be able to use it. It's going to be flexible and adaptable to the individual. I don't need a lot of special instructions to get along with it. And if I do something wrong, I'm not going to have some dire consequence, or it has a high tolerance for error. And I don't have to use all my strength in my hand to open it or make the faucet work or anything like that. And then I can reach it. That we have enough information about anthropometrics that we can design for appropriate sizes. Now, inclusive design takes it a little further, and it looks at people as the heart of design and embraces people's cultural and diversity and differences, and it wants to offer choice for a variety of users without them even thinking about it, such that someone coming up to a building with a ramp on it does not have to be embarrassed that they have to go down to the back of the building. So here's some ideas with, we have accessible entrances, but when we integrate those entrances and we don't tell someone they have to go around to the back of the building, we make it a much more inclusive design. And the same with accessible desks, such that no one has to ask, well, I can't reach this, or I can't fit my wheelchair under this countertop, even down to accessible egg turners or pancake turners, such that we don't have to use a heavy grip if we have arthritis. So we can see the one on the left is not inclusive. Someone in a wheelchair will feel very diminished coming up there. Whereas on the right, we have a lowered section that is a benefit to even short people or people with dwarfism, or maybe it just gives the taller person an easier place to look down at their things. So we have inclusive offices and accessible offices when we are mindful of clearances around desk and ADA standards. And here's an inclusive entrance as well as accessible entrance such that it integrates with the design of the building. Inclusive and accessible bathrooms, grab bars integrated into the design. So there's an initiative for the WELL building standard and embraces 7 concepts that we all need access, equal access if you would, to air, water, nourishment, light, fitness, comfort, and mind. And here's some of the well-being initiatives that are under comfort, mind, and light. And I'll let you look at those at your leisure, but even down to organizational transparency and access to views and not having a noisy workplace. So we're going to talk about this some more later. And there's a lot of resources with wellcertified.com. There's checklists. You can learn. You can go online and take some webinars about it. So I'm going to leave that to you, but that's our look at universal, inclusive, and now WELL building design. Thank you.